Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. A video in which today we are obviously looking ahead at the massive Liverpool versus Manchester United game. A game in which obviously has a lot riding on it for both teams. Both teams playing for a lot to end the season on a high this year. And we are going to look ahead to it, we're going to look at it, and we are going to obviously try and predict which way the outcome is going to go. Before we go into all of that though, before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get into the preview. A preview that will obviously be exciting for a lot of people. This is still seen as being a global phenomenon of a football game, despite obviously Man United's kind of downfall in recent seasons and this season in particular being a complete car crash. This will obviously see two of the top teams in England right now, and obviously historically two of the best teams in England, the two best teams in England, go head to head and clash at Anfield this time around in what is set to be another chapter in the history of these two football clubs and obviously this historic rivalry. Liverpool know what they're playing for now. Things are falling together perfectly for Jurgen Klopp's side. They are playing for the quadruple, of course. The Premier League may not be in their hands. It may be the advantage of Manchester City, but with only being 1 point away, any kind of slip up by Pep Guardiola's side will obviously need to be capitalised on by Liverpool. And therefore they know that they need to win all of their remaining games to have a chance of obviously lifting that Premier League title come the end of the season. Whilst Manchester United, of course, somehow, some way, top four is still alive for them. They are 3 points off of the top four spot. Of course, that is the bare minimum that was expected of them this season. There was a lot of promise and expectation going into this new campaign in the summer. The signings that they made, the second place finish of last season, but it just hasn't lived up to that expectation, has it? It hasn't lived up to the promise that was set before it. And it's been, like I say, a complete car crash of a season as far as Manchester United are concerned. But there is a way to give a consolation prize to the fans, if you will. A consolation prize that will see them try and claim a top four finish. And also the possibility of ending Liverpool's quadruple hopes and their Premier League title hopes at the very least. Like I say, history and rivalry aside, it is mainly for United about finishing in the top four to get Champions League football again for next season. But as a little bit of an extra incentive, it could mean that a win against Liverpool in this game could signal the end of Liverpool's title challenge, which would obviously be good for United in a way, because obviously Liverpool are chasing a 20th league title that will obviously equal Manchester United's record. But overall, it still doesn't quite make up for what an absolute train wreck of a season that this has been for them. So that's what both teams are playing for. Both teams have at least something to play for. That's on the line, along with obviously pride and history, rivalry, like I mentioned. So let's look ahead then to the game itself, because it normally goes one way recently. And obviously when these two teams met earlier in the season, it sort of went a different way. It was completely one-sided. We know that obviously the cliches of form goes out the window and all that kind of stuff comes into these kind of games, because it is essentially like a derby. It's not a geographical derby, but it is a derby in terms of the hatred, the rivalry and all that kind of thing. But it did go very differently early in the season to what we're used to. We're used to this being a sort of tight-knit game. We're used to this sort of being a game in which both sides try and outdo the other, but both teams have a different ways of playing, which can hurt the other team. But when these two teams met earlier in the season, of course, it was completely different. Liverpool absolutely bossed and dominated the game. I didn't even think Liverpool played amazingly well in the game earlier in the season, in which obviously they won 5-0, and that sounds ridiculous of me saying that, because 5-0 is quite a one-sided scoreline if there ever was one. But I don't think they played amazingly well. I just think that United were that terrible that Liverpool walked through their defence on multiple occasions and obviously got a very big win and a very big 3 points. Obviously that was under a Manchester United side that were under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at the time. This time it's going to be a little different in that Ralf Rangnick is now in the dugout at Old Trafford for Manchester United, and is obviously a mentor and a big inspiration to one Jurgen Klopp, the Liverpool manager. So it'll be interesting to see that kind of reunion, that kind of sort of friendship, if you like, between two rivals, I guess you'd say. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and whether his old mentor will get one over on the student, or whether the student has now become the master. Of course, it hasn't exactly been a great reign as interim manager for Rangnick, but like I say, with a lot on the line in this game, maybe the stars align here, and maybe Manchester United get a victory that their fans will be desperately wanting, and that everybody associated with the club will obviously be wanting as well, to try and put pressure back on the top 4 race that they are currently involved in. As far as how both teams are set up, look, Liverpool obviously have a bit of maybe a fatigue issue. They of course played at the weekend against Manchester City in the FA Cup semi-final. United obviously played as well over the weekend in the Premier League game against Norwich, in which they came out as 3-2 winners, but almost throwing away a complete 2-goal lead. So both teams coming into this game not exactly fresh, but I would say that with Liverpool going against Manchester City, having to play that intense level for a whole 90 minutes, maybe they come into this game a little bit on the fatigue side. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of side Jurgen Klopp picks as well. The side that played on Saturday was incredible. They kept up an intense and very physical game for a whole 90 minutes. Be interesting to see whether he goes for that same team again, because that, in my opinion, was an incredible side that he picked on that day, especially the midfield 3 of Fabinho, Thiago and Keita. I would suspect maybe Jordan Henderson comes back into it. I think the back 5 may remain the same. The only debate for the back 5 is obviously whether he starts Joel Matip or Ibrahima Konate. Either is fine in my book. I think Konate would obviously cover the pace that United could possess out wide, particularly targeting the right back area. But either way, I don't think it really matters too much whether it's Joel Matip or whether it is Konate, as to whether or not they're going to be defending against Cristiano Ronaldo, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, so on and so forth. Like I say, the midfield 3, I can see Henderson coming back into it alongside Fabinho, and then either Thiago or Keita. I would love for Keita to start this game instead of Henderson, but I can see him changing up that midfield, just simply for the reason that there's big games coming up on the horizon for Liverpool. And obviously the big game that Liverpool had on Saturday, of course, taking its toll. Whilst up front, Jota or Firmino could come back into the side instead of Luis Diaz. I love Luis Diaz to pieces. He's been incredible since his arrival in the Premier League. But again, rotation-wise, I see Salah keeping his place. Mane was exceptional on Saturday against City. I can see him keeping his place, but maybe being shifted out wide this time around, whilst Jota and Firmino come in for him. I'd love it for it to be a completely unchanged lineup, but obviously rotation is important. And let's face it, Jurgen Klopp has done a sensational job all season of rotating his squad when needed and keeping players fresh and keeping players fuel in the tank, so to speak, for when they have to go again. And he's done a very, very good job of that all season in maintaining the energy levels and the physicality levels required for Liverpool to be competing on multiple fronts. So fair play for that. As far as Man United go, of course, De Gea in goal as per usual. Probably Wan-Bissaka right back. I think Luke Shaw is still injured, so Alex Telles will remain probably at left back. Varane and Maguire. Bailly and Maguire. One of that combination to start at the heart of the defence. In midfield, Fred, McTominay if he's fit, but I heard he may not be. Fred, Fernandes, Ronaldo, Rashford, Sancho. I left them all to start there. Maybe Matic as well in that midfield, depending on what's happening with McTominay. And basically, the idea will be to counter-attack for them. They're obviously going to Anfield. I don't see them having a lot of the ball. I just see them having to be disciplined in defence, wait patiently, and try and hit Liverpool on the counter-attack in the areas and the spaces that they leave behind, particularly in their fullbacks. And of course, the wide players are going to be very much needed for that plan to work. So the likes of Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, if that's going to be the case, will have to obviously remain out wide and will obviously have to provide the width, the pace and the speed in order to break away. And obviously then it's all up to whether they can create good enough chances for one Cristiano Ronaldo to take it to place away. The big battle is obviously going to be Cristiano Ronaldo against Virgil van Dyke. And that is going to be a big battle. But earlier in the season, when Van Dijk was still finding his feet, having returned from that lengthy injury that he suffered that saw him miss the majority of last season, was one that Van Dijk won pretty comfortably, in all honesty, leaving Cristiano Ronaldo pretty frustrated. So frustrated, in fact, that he decided to lash out and kick out at Andy Robertson, of course, as United lost their heads on that day a little bit. But no, that is what I would suspect United to play like. Liverpool will obviously see a lot of the ball. Liverpool will obviously dominate and they'll create a lot of chances, I imagine. This United defence isn't great. It's not great at all. Their midfield isn't great at all. But like I say, form does go out the window in these types of games, and like I said before, with a lot riding on this game as far as United go and as far as their supporters go, they will be wanting and demanding a performance of the highest quality. And maybe they catch Liverpool on a bad day. Maybe they catch Liverpool on a day where they're not firing on all cylinders, their passing game isn't on point, they're not taking their chances when they fall, and maybe, just maybe, United may get a result here. It's unlikely, it's very unlikely that will happen. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But of course, as we know, this is the Premier League. Anybody can be anybody on their day. Stranger things have happened, blah, blah, blah. You know the kind of cliches I'm going to throw out there. Anything is possible here. Set pieces are going to be a big thing. We've seen in the past 3 games that Ibrahim Konate started that he scored in all 3. If he is to play again, he's going to be a big danger from those set pieces as well. So Liverpool do have another another kind of avenue to attack, another way of attacking. But yeah, I just don't see anything other than a Liverpool victory here. It's obviously still a big game. there's a lot riding on it for both teams. There's a lot more riding on it for United than I think there may be for Liverpool, considering the situation that obviously Liverpool are in which they are competing on multiple fronts this season. And of course, the Premier League title race is not exactly within their advantage or their hands. But even saying that, I just see that Liverpool will win this game. I think they have the players to do it. They've got the strength and depth to do it. They've got a more clinical edge in the final third. United only have one way of attacking and hurting Liverpool, which if executed, they can do. But then it's all about whether they take their chances or not, and whether Ronaldo's on form, and whether or not he can beat Alisson Becker, who's been in sensational form all season. So it's going to be interesting. Little battles across the pitch here and there. But overall, the big battle is going to be the midfield battle. And again, sounds cliche to say, but that's going to obviously be a big part in this fixture. One that I see Liverpool winning due to the amount of strength and depth that they have, the amount riding on it, and just how incredible they've been for the past few weeks to just get through games by any means necessary. By not necessarily playing well, but still by managing to find a way, some way, somehow, to win football matches. And at this stage of the season, when you're competing on multiple fronts, that is all you can ask of. As far as a prediction goes, like I said, I think Liverpool will win this game. I think Liverpool will put more pressure on Manchester City and simultaneously, of course, heap more pressure onto Manchester United and add to Manchester United's already pretty miserable season, in all honesty. Now, as far as the scoreline goes, it could be anything. It could be a massive result. It could be a lucky, not necessarily lucky result, but a close result, shall we say. I'm going to go for a big result though. I'm going to go for a big result. I'm going to say that Liverpool come out of this game as 4-1 winners. I just think with it being at Anfield, I think with Liverpool, they're going to create multiple chances. I think with the crowd behind them on a Tuesday night at Anfield, I think Liverpool will absolutely smash Man United by 4-1 on the night and keep pressure on Manchester City going forward. And I really hope and I really pray that Mohamed Salah gets back on the score sheet. A goal from open play will be amazing for Salah, and I think it will do his confidence the world of good going forward, especially as Liverpool continue on this epic and monumental month in their history of English football, competing on multiple fronts, of course. But we'll have to wait and see, of course. These are just, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this epic football game coming up between Liverpool and Manchester United? What are your own thoughts, your comments, opinions, and most of all, of course, your predictions? Like I say, I'm going for 4-1 Liverpool. I want to know what yours are going to be down below in the comment section, because I'm sure it'll all make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way out and enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and probably greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you all again soon in another video.